Hi everyone, it's Jaden, and today we'll be talking, this is my opinion, I'm comparing the Call of the Wild movie and the Call of the Wild book. So there are actually two Call of the Wild movies. There's the one in from the 1940s, 30s, 50s, 30s, I think 40s. While we could talk about that one, there is a more famous one, the Call of the Wild 2020 version, which stars Harrison Ford. And so for those of you who really like Harrison Ford, I think that you will like this movie, right? Indiana Jones fans, Star Wars fans, right? Indiana and Han Solo come back as John Thornton this time. And now that I've watched the entire movie, I have realized one very big and important truth about the book and the movie. So the movie is rated PG, while the book, I'm pretty sure, will be rated PG-13. And so the reason for this is, and there's a lot of reasons. So first I'm just going to be talking about some reasons that, aren't really about the story, but just, overall. So first, I want to say that there was too much CGI. There was way too much CGI. And I mean, nothing against that. I like CGI as much as the next person, but there was way too much CGI. So I would like it if there were like some more actual scenes, like in actually in like the film there. But that's not really taking away from the story unless it feels more artificial. And Call of the Wild is not a very artificial book. It's true and it's raw and it's really powerful, right? It's an actual story. It's a realistic story that we can believe. It's realistic. It's true. I mean, it's not true, but it feels true. And yet the CGI version, the movie kind of makes everything feel fake. Like, you can clearly see, oh, yeah, definitely, that dog is not real. And that brings me to the topic of dogs. So, Buck is played by a human, kind of like, how Gollum was played by somebody, in the Lord of the Rings movies. And so, because it's played by a person, and so that person, I watched like kind of an interview, and so they wanted to like capture facial expressions of dogs because dogs express a lot through facial expressions. Well, I have had some experience with dogs, and I personally have never seen any facial expressions, like except for like the occasional whine, like right, or like I don't know, like a bark or a growl. There's not like many facial expressions, but in the movie there were kind of a lot. Like by kind of a lot, I mean like more, or at least the amount of facial expressions that a dog had was greater than or equal to the amount of facial expressions a person had, if not even more. Like, I felt that Buck frowned, laughed, smiled, contemplated, thought, was angry, anyway. I thought that he had more facial expressions than Harrison Ford, which, I mean, nothing against dogs, right? You're probably like very sensitive creatures, but honestly, it did not feel real to me. Of course, I'm not saying that the actor was bad at his job. He was pretty good. I really liked it, and it wasn't that big. And I thought that they'd create a more human-like trait of Buck, which is important because we don't want Buck to be just an animal. We want it to be the main character. It is the main character. It is the main character of the story, and definitely nobody wanted that to be just a wild dog. They wanted it to be kind of like a poor person, right? Which is why that happened, why there were facial expressions, right? However, I think that was a bit overdone, but whatever. It still created a more it created more person out of Buck, so I'm not gonna say that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that was definitely one big feature of the movie. Second, I mean, actually, maybe this is third. There are some things different. There actually weren't that many things different. So I liked how they stayed pretty well with the story. There were like a few things added on here and there, but most of the part, it was true to the story. Though I do want to note that Buck was too spoiled in the beginning. I know I sound very picky, but in the book, Buck was still a grand, noble, majestic dog, right? I mean, sure, he was spoiled. He lived in California, in the Santa Clara Valley. What dog would not be spoiled? Like, I'm not saying that he's spoiled and that, like, he steals and trashes entire banquets like the Buck in the movie does, but, any dog who lives in the Santa Clara Valley is spoiled, like, compared to, like, the sled dogs who are trekking thousands of miles through ice and snow and below freezing temperatures in the Alaskan Yukon, right? But still, Buck was too spoiled. While he does learn in the Alaskan Yukon, and we really see a lot of character progression, I will say that actually, he started out as a con, but, as I kept thinking about it, I think it's actually one of the pros, right? Buck changes meaningfully, and I think that's a very important thing. I do want to note that, some of the changes from the book to the movie include that there's less violence, right? This is a PG-rated movie, so, Buck doesn't kill Spitz, and, like, in the book, Buck will break 2 of Spitz's legs, and, like, a lot of bloody stuff. Here, Buck pins Spitz down and then doesn't do anything. There's no blood, cuts, or anything, wounds shown, and Buck is kinder. He lets Spitz go, and Spitz just walks away. Right. That would not have happened in the book. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all read it. And so there were a few different things. So yeah, those were different. I'm not gonna say if they were better or not, but because survival of the fittest, the really harshness and rawness of the Arctic is a big theme in The Call of the Wild. Yeah, sure, it's violent. It's probably going to be rated with PG-13 if, Buck, brutally murdered Spitz. But I still think that it would have fit better with the theme, even if it was bloody and kind of violent. So, I mean, that means that it's better for younger audiences, but that also means it kind of detracts from one of the main themes of The Call of the Wild. And I thought that Harrison Ford was a great actor. The person who played Buck was a great actor. The movie overall I thought was a pretty good movie. It represented Call of the Wild okay. Sure, there were some things different. CGI was maybe too overused, and there were a few themes that kind of were detracted from. But I still think that if you want to find a good way to enjoy the Call of the Wild with your family, like, in 2 hours and without, like, reading it, I recommend reading it and then talking about it. That's another great way to do it. But I know that in this world, watching movies is a main pastime. And who would not want to watch movies, right? Movies these days are so advanced. Like, even though I'm complaining about CGI, it's still amazing. It still looks lifelike. It's such an enormous difference from, say, 50 years ago. And so I think that definitely, while Jaden's Bookshelf is committed to books, it's also committed to stories. And some amazing stories are told through movies. A lot of amazing, impactful, and beautiful stories are told through movies. And so that's why I'm talking about the movies as well here. So this one was related to a book, which is why I talked about it, but I will be talking about some other books as well. Some other movies as well, as you've seen in past Jaden's Chit Chat videos. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you have any thoughts about the movie, then, of course, you can always reach out to me. But, yeah. Who can say which is better, right? Here I was talking about what I would say that Call of the Wild was better. But maybe the movie was better to like an unbiased person. So it all depends. But I will note this. According to Google, 84% of Google users like the Call of the Wild book. Meanwhile, 81% or 80%, I think it was 81% of Google users liked the movie. I mean, that's only like 3% difference. I don't think it really matters, but hey, 3% in this world of a lot of people does mean things. But of course, that movie's highly rated. I recommend watching it. It's PG. I think it'll be a great family movie. And yeah, it definitely has impacted me and, has shaped some of my views on Buck and the rest of the dogs there. And so I think that the movie still adds a bit of humanness into all the dogs, and overall, I think that I would recommend it. And I hope that you enjoy the book. Please read the book before the movie, because always consider, maybe the movie is better, but the movie was created because of the book. It's in most circumstances, the book is mainly the one with, that mainly, not always, definitely not always, but sometimes you just read the book, right? There's a reason why it was adapted to a movie in the first place. Not always, but if that book is famous, like Call of the Wild or Harry Potter, don't just jump straight to the movie. Go to the book first, because that's gonna give you so many insights and make you think about new themes that you would have never thought about if you had just watched a condensed version of, the book as in a movie. And that's pretty much all I had to say about the Call of the Wild movie. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and next time I might be seeing you with another great movie and book comparison. I'm still thinking about which book to talk about, but one of them at the top of my head that I might be doing, of course, remember the keyword is always might, I might be doing is The Book Thief. And so that's something to look forward to, and I'll see you next time. Bye, and keep reading and watching.